Good evening. Today it's a year on from a crime in Birmingham when a night out and a chance remark led to an event so shocking it speaks for itself.
I'd been out celebrating my birthday with friends.
All right, mate, cheers. See you later.
We'd been up Birmingham town centre and they all had work in the morning and I decided to carry on. I went straight up to the bar, bought a drink and stood talking to a friend of mine.
Right,
All right, Dave.
how you doing, mate?
All right, mate, how's it going?
I'm all right, yeah.
Yeah. What are you up to?
I'm still down at Dunlop, you know.
Oh,
Yeah, I got a kid on the way.
are you kidding?
Yeah.
Oh, nice one. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Cheers, mate.
Well, I'll have to get you a drink then.
Oh, cheers, mate.
What do you want?
Same again.
All right, mate. All right, nice one.
We was just talking how we used to play football together. I hadn't seen him for a while, so we started talking about old times. I'd had a drink and I needed to go to the toilet. I walked in and there was a fella already in there at the urinal.
Hey, you look like a friend of mine.
I don't know you. You shut your mouth. Who are you to speak to me?
Sorry, mate.
A little later, a club regular went into the toilet.
What's happened? Look at his face. Come on, help me get him out of here. Mate, 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 can you hear us? Mate, come on, mate, we're going to get you out of here. That's it. All right, put him down, put him down. What's going on? Look, I found him in the toilet, mate. I don't know what's happening.
Are you all right? Listen, call an ambulance.
Yeah, all right, mate, I'll get an ambulance.
Let's get him outside.
Come down, I'll grab hold of him there.
Put him there, put him there.
Just hang in there, mate. Ambulance is on its way.
I can't feel my legs.
You all right, Dave? You know why you got that, don't you, mate, eh? Do you want a bit more, eh? A bit more?
Can't you see he's had enough?
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah. Can you tell me your name? Okay, keep nice and still.
You better not open your mouth, all right? Otherwise you know what you'll get.
He was discharged from hospital. He was left paralysed from the neck down. It's been very hard. It's completely shattered both sides of the family. And it's something which you could never prepare yourself for.
You're just saying about the football here, you're going to have to ring up and get a ticket. And my life's changed so dramatically. My wife was pregnant at the time this happened to me. I haven't even been able to hold my own child.
In fact, David was in hospital for 8 months For a time, doctors thought he wasn't going to survive. He was given the last rites. And here's the guy leading the investigation now, Detective Chief Inspector Kenny Bell. The assault was just amazing. I mean, you're stamped again and again and again on his neck. The truth is, of course, they shouldn't really have moved him. It's very inadvisable to move someone if you don't know how they've been injured, what injuries they're suffering from. But you're pretty sure it was the attack that caused the paralysis?
Without doubt, the level of injuries that were inflicted on David's neck, it's a clear intention that those caused the injuries.
Now, you need names, presumably.
Yeah, names are important, but what I really need are witnesses. Witnesses that are prepared to give me a statement so that I can take their evidence to court and enable David and his family to start to rebuild their lives.
There are all sorts of rumours going around Erdington that somebody's bragging about having done this. I mean, it is very probable that quite a number of people know who's done this.
That's right, yes, somebody is bragging in the Erdington area about the injuries that they've inflicted on David and the fact that they think they've got away with this offence. And it's very distressing for David and his family.
You say you don't just want names, you want people prepared to be witnesses.
Very much so.
What do you mean by that? What sort of witnesses?
What I need is somebody that's going to be prepared to tell me what they've heard, if they know who's bragging about this offence, if they witnessed the offence themselves.
And give you their name?
Well, I need their evidence, and I can take their evidence to court, because realistically, without that, I'm not going to convict this attacker.
Can you protect their names from becoming public knowledge, protect their names from going to the offender?
Yes, I can. There are special measures that I can and will implement that will enable me to protect those witnesses, support them, so that together we can both convict this coward.
What about the guy who came running out to the ambulance? And earlier on, we've got CCTV of him, but unfortunately it's the back of him coming out of the club himself. If he comes forward, what happens to him?
Well, I'm treating this man as a witness. Clearly, from what he knows, he's seen the attack, and I firmly believe he knows the identity of the attacker. And because of that, I want him to come forward so I can obtain that evidence from him.
OK, so he's just a witness, but you need him to come forward?
Without a doubt.
It's a terrible life sentence, this, for David and his family, and so ridiculous that this appalling consequence should happen in just those few seconds of somebody losing their temper. Tell us who was involved before he loses his temper like that again. You can ring our free call number 0500 600 600, or you can call the Instant Room in Birmingham on 0121 428 6080.
Also on tonight's programme, why would a rapist come back to his victim after she'd been rescued?
The fortune in cash and the landlady who met a grisly end because of it.
Now, we're always showing you e-fits on Crimewatch, but how many of you know how they're made and how effective they are? Well, this is Matt Allwright. Now, Matt, you're more used to chasing villains on scam buses and rogue traders, and Matt's trying to describe a well-known TV villain. And our e-fit expert here doesn't know who he is, but you do. Look at this. So how well do e-fits work, and what's it like to do one? We'll find out later.
But first, we've got some really rather good results from previous programmes. Last month, we showed real footage of an armed robbery in Southall in West London. 20 viewers called, and as a direct result, 3 men have been arrested and are on bail.
We also showed a violent attack on the Tube. One of the suspects was so horrified to see himself on Crimewatch, he gave himself up the very next day. Now a second member of the group's turned himself in.
An arrest after an appeal we did last year. Amjad Khan had been charged with drug offences but skipped bail. Several viewers said they'd sighted him, and this month 2 uniformed officers spotted him in Sheffield. He's now in custody awaiting trial.
Also in South Yorkshire, a disturbing case from last September's programme. A 16-year-old was followed while she walked home, then literally picked up and carried into some bushes. A Crimewatch viewer named a man to Crime Stoppers, and as a direct result, a suspect's been arrested and charged with kidnap.
And 2 cases solved independently of Crimewatch. First one you may remember from 4 years ago. Student Sarah Cameron was returning home after celebrating getting a new job. Her body was found in a field almost opposite her house. Earlier this month, the man was charged with her murder.
And a year ago, a burning body was found near Peterborough. It took complex forensic science and cooperation with police in Belgium to identify the victim. He was a Ukrainian called Johannes and Miriam. A man and a woman have been arrested in connection with the case.
You may remember from last month the unprovoked stabbing of Chris Taylor in Romford in Essex. Now, at least one viewer rang to say that the killer had links with the army. If that was you who rang, or if you think that there were links with the army and have got reasons to say so, please will you call back. Detectives really are very, very interested indeed in what you have to say. Call us here in the studio, or you can call the Romford Incident Room on 020 8358 0300.
Let me tell you some figures that may surprise you. A report from the British Crime Service shows as many as 1 in 20 women is raped sometime in their lives. But the rapist is almost always the victim's husband, partner or acquaintance. Stranger rape is rare. But what you're about to see is not just rare, it's extraordinary. It happened to a 16-year-old in Hastings 4 days before Christmas.
That evening I'd been into town with some friends.
Oh, really enjoyed it tonight. Much better than last night.
Gary, where are you? Well, I'm going to Jimmy's to wait at the doorstep for him until he gets back. You're with him? OK, well, I should be there in about 15 minutes. Okay, bye. Paul, they're at a taxi rank in town. Do you mind dropping me off at the Odeon?
I could drop you off at the taxi rank if you want.
No, the cinema's fine. Thank you, Paul.
I had arranged to get a taxi from town with another group of friends. I didn't have any money on me, and it was either that or walking the whole way home. As soon as I got to the taxi rank and saw they weren't there, I rang one of my friends.
Hi, where are you?
Sorry, we left because of the queue. We walked up the road and found a taxi.
When did you get home?
Just now. I thought you said we weren't there and you get a lift home. Where are you now?
I'm going to walk up to West Hill.
Listen, I'll call you a cab and I'll ring you back. Do you know where the West Hill phone box is by Collier Road?
Yeah.
OK, I'll get them to pick you up from there and I'll phone you back.
Thanks, Gary. Hi.
I've rung a taxi. They're on the way. Where are you now?
I'm on West Hill by the play park.
Right, keep walking towards the phone box and wait there and I'll phone you back in about 10 minutes.
Oh, thanks, Gary.
When I came up to cross the road, that's when I saw the car. I saw him drive down and I heard the car stop behind me.
Come with me, down here, now.
I froze. I thought of all sorts of things. You're not going to see anyone again. You're not going to see your friends. You're not going to see your family.
Unzip your zip. Come on, unzip your zip. Now, on the floor.
The early hours of Sunday, December the 21st, the 16-year-old was raped in full view of the road.
Before it happens to you, you can say what you like, but you never know what you'll do till it happens. Never. I didn't scream because I didn't want anything else to happen to me. You don't know what they're going to do.
She made her way to the phone box at Collier Road, but incredibly, as the taxi her friend had ordered arrived, the man who raped her returned.
Is she all right? Are you OK? Are you hurt?
I look towards the guy next to me and I see that he's carrying a torch and he's shining it over the girl, which I thought was odd because it's very well lit up there.
Are you the one that phoned for a taxi? Is that your phone? Don't you want to answer it?
And at that moment, the guy takes the phone out of her hand and answers it, which I thought, again, was rather strange, just picking up somebody else's phone and answering it. He looks at the screen. Obviously, there's a name comes up.
All right. Is this Gary?
Who's that? Are you a taxi driver?
No. I'm the man at the phone box.
Has the cab arrived?
Yeah. The taxi driver's here next to me.
Where's Jenny?
She's in a bit of a state. Do you know what's the matter with her?
She had an argument with a friend earlier.
Oh, I see.
So it's emotional. Well, I'm just putting her into the taxi now.
OK.
OK. Are you sure you're not hurt? Eh? So there's no question of an assault, then?
When he said that, I thought it was just a very strange thing to say. He seemed to almost like he'd done this sort of thing before.
You're all right to go with him, aren't you? Just put your phone into your coat pocket for your love.
But the man didn't give the phone back to her.
Don't worry, mate. They've got money. You get paid all right. OK, then?
While she was in the cab, she was very quiet. She basically curled up in the corner, didn't speak, was still shaking, still sobbing.
A lot of people say that they would have never walked home because they are too scared. I never worried about that. I always thought I'd be all right.
With me now is Detective Inspector Trevor Bowles. Trevor, how rare is it that you'll come across an instance like this where the rapist will go back to his victim after he's left her?
This is a very unusual attack. I've certainly never come across a similar incident before.
Well, talk us through what you know about the man to help viewers identify him.
We know that the man is aged between 38 and 45. He has black hair, as can be seen in the video fit, and he was wearing a black leather jacket.
Local, do you think?
It's possible, but we're keeping our minds open to the possibility of him coming elsewhere.
And his behaviour was so bizarre, wasn't it?
Truly bizarre, and I'm really, really bothered by the behaviour that he exhibited on that night.
Now let's talk about the torch, for example, that he used. And strange the way he used it, he held it like this. I must admit, I'd probably hold a torch like this, but anyway, he very deliberately held it like this, sort of looking up and down the victim.
Indeed, very, very strange behaviour in that regard, and that may be quite distinctive.
And this is what a mag-light torch.
It's exactly the same as that torch there.
And then the phone, he took her phone, because we heard it there in the reconstruction, he said,
Yes.
I'll slip your phone back. He never did, actually. This is what with Winnie the Pooh emblems on here.
What I'm appealing for tonight is somebody who knows where that phone may be, or who has found the phone with that distinctive cover on. Please call, we need to hear from you.
What you really want, of course, is someone who can put together the description of the man with the phone, or possibly with the torch.
That's the call we're looking for tonight. We need somebody to link these items, the phone, the torch and the description, and to phone in. Please contact us.
And of course other witnesses who may have seen the victim walking up that night, which is about 3:30 in the morning.
Yes, that's right. The white clothing, the white top that was worn by the actress in the reconstruction is a very accurate representation of how the victim was dressed on that night. She was also wearing white stiletto shoes. So anyone who saw her walking up towards the West Hill, please call in.
I suppose it's possible he may have come back to her because he was going to rape her again. I mean, that's the worry, isn't it?
I find his behaviour very disturbing, and I'm certainly very concerned as to why he came back to the scene of the attack.
OK, well, there's a £10,000 reward for information on this, leading to an arrest and a conviction. Our studio number is on the screen, and more of Trevor's colleagues are at the incident room in Hastings on 0800 21 66 69. And don't forget, if you've been a victim of crime, the Victim Support Line is on 0845 30 30 900. Now here's Chief Superintendent Jeremy Payne.
This month, a rogues gallery of robbers and fraudsters. I hope you'll recognise the people who are on display tonight. First, a robbery at a convenience store in Worcester. A man goes into the shop to buy a packet of chewing gum. As soon as the till's opened, he threatens the shopkeeper with a screwdriver, jumps over the counter and, after a bit of a tussle, grabs some cash. Who is he? Staying in the Midlands, this time in Telford. Two men break into the reception of an office block. While one of them checks to see if the coast is clear, the other pulls a TV plasma screen worth £5,000 off the wall. They load it into their car, which is a Peugeot 406, possibly green in colour. Can you name them? Now, fraud in Stratford-upon-Avon. This woman is out shopping for the day at various places around the town. The trouble is she's spending someone else's money with a credit card that had been stolen earlier that day. She spent a total of £800. Do you know who she is? On to High Wycombe and another stolen credit card. Detectives would like to speak to this man after he withdrew £5,000 from branches of Lloyds, TSB and Barclays with a card that had also been stolen earlier in the day. Someone must recognise him. Oh, 0500 600 600 if you can help with any of those cases.
It's about 23 minutes past 10. Keep the calls coming. And please, if past 9, I should say. If you've recently been offered a good deal on a bike, let us know, particularly if you've been offered a good deal on any bike like one of these. These are really high-spec mountain bikes. Some of them are worth £500–600 at retail. Some of them, this one included, retails £1,800 and some up to £2,000. 213 of these were stolen 3 months ago from the Willow Lane Industrial Estate in Mitcham, Surrey, and earlier this month there was another burglary there as well, and yet more were taken. In pursuit of the culprits is DC Tony Rawlinson. You know most about, Tony, what happened on the attack 3 months ago, November the 13th.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
At least 5 people have forced entry into a storage warehouse where these mountain bikes were stored, flat packed in cardboard boxes, as you see. They've loaded them up into a lorry and driven them away. What we know is that they haven't gone very far because they've come back and loaded up more, put them into the lorry and taken them away.
So how far could they have gone, do you know, in that time?
We estimate about half an hour's journey away, so they probably could have got to about the M25.
OK, this is November the 30th. They were seen in a lorry, a very distinctive truck. Tell us about that.
Yes, a Conran lorry that was stolen that weekend. That was recovered 3 days later.
So a Conran lorry in Mitcham in Surrey on the 30th of November. There aren't many Conran lorries in the whole of the United Kingdom.
There's
only
only
Mitcham.
There's only 5.
In the whole of the country?
Yes.
So anybody saw that you're interested in, presumably the main thing, well, the flat packs, they're fairly distinctive. They look as they've got an S on them, and it looks a bit like an N backwards on some of them. People might have seen a whole bunch of these stored somewhere.
Yes.
The big thing, of course, is the bikes themselves.
Yes, they're specialised.
They are specialised not just as a description, specialised is actually the trade name, right?
Yes, it is, yes.
Now, if a proper cycle shop had been offered these off the back of a lorry, literally, not from proper supply, would they have bought them in order to sell on to the public?
I would hope not. We do have the serial numbers for those. These bikes should only be sold by specialised retailers, specialised outlets.
Well, if you're offered them, they are very, very distinctive. Quite apart from the fact they say specialised, they have all these features on, like disc brakes on the front. Then they've got shock absorbers. Some of them have even got shock absorbers that actually go through the rear of the main frame here, and then again disc brakes and pretty fancy gearing and all the rest on the back. If you are offered a bike like this, please let us know. There is a big reward on this, isn't there?
There is. There's an £8,000 reward leading to the recovery of the bikes.
So, if you want to make yourself £8,000, tell us if you've seen these on sale anywhere. If you can help on either of the thefts, call us on 0500 600 600 or the incident room on 020 8649 3054.
And you probably have heard about the armed robbery that took place at Heathrow Airport around 3 weeks ago.
Flying squad detectives investigating the robbery of £1.75 million from a cargo shed at Heathrow Airport have arrested 5 people. Several members of staff at the Menzies World cargo shed were overpowered before the men made off with the money.
Leading the hunt for the gang is Detective Chief Inspector James Dickey. Now, a gun was fired during this, so this could so easily have been a murder inquiry. There are 5 people you're still looking for, but one in particular.
Yeah, that's a gentleman by the name of Glenn Cameron, who's about 44 years of age. He's a white male. He hails originally from the Ruislip Hayes Middlesex area, but at the time of this offence he was a resident in New Milton in Hampshire.
And likely still to be in the country?
Definitely, I would say, because we managed to get hold of his passport, so he'd have no legitimate means of travelling abroad.
Now, you've brought along some CCTV, which hasn't been seen before, of the robbery. Now, what clues does that give us?
Well, it shows the uniform dress that all the robbers were wearing. They're all wearing high-visibility yellow jackets, as you can see. They're wearing navy blue or black knitted caps, and they've got, which is very unusual, almost a theatrical foam mask.
So actually, when you look at that, you can't see that they're wearing masks, but these masks are such a particular, and they're very good and high-quality masks. In fact, there's a fragment that you got, we can see that here, that one of the victims managed to pull off the mask. Now, where do you think these would have come from?
Well, our information is it probably come from a specialist theatrical mask maker or retail outlet. And what we are appealing to somebody that may have supplied these, and there'll be at least 6 of them in existence. And I'm told they're quite expensive. They're the top of the range. They're not a normal, bog-standard type of mask.
There's a couple of cars you're interested in as well, aren't there?
Yeah, there's 2 vehicles. Both were stolen on the night of the robbery outside the cargo warehouse because the robbers panicked when the shots were fired. They stole a gold Ford Fiesta, which was found...
Gold Ford Focus, was it?
Sorry, Focus, which was found burnt out in New Denham, which is between Denham and Uxbridge off the A40.
Off the A40. And what about the registration? We've got that, haven't we?
We have got that.
That's what, X840. There we got it there. HHR. And there's a van as well. You haven't found that?
Yeah, we haven't found the van, and obviously we're appealing to anybody who knows where this van is to contact us.
And again, we've got the registration on there. Let's show people there. That's a Vauxhall van, KF53CXX. Now, the money that was stolen, a lot of money that was stolen, nearly £2 million. Yeah. You've recovered some of it.
We have.
There's a lot of foreign currency as well. What's happened to that?
Yeah, it's predominantly Scandinavian krona. That's Danish, Norwegian, Swedish, and some Australian dollars. And we know it will probably come into the banking system, as some has already, via bureau de changes or banks. If you're an employee of any of those institutions or know anybody that's flush with this amount of cash, and we're talking thousands here, we're not talking about small
even
amounts.
hundreds of thousands.
Hundreds of thousands.
I mean, this is not the kind of money you go in when you just want to take a bit of money on holiday.
Absolutely. I mean, this would be noticed. And if you know anybody that's got this or anyone that's trying to pass it and exchange it for sterling, please let us know.
OK, well, there's a £50,000 reward on this through Crime Stoppers for information. That might tempt some people out. 0500 600 600, or you can call the Incident Room on 020 8358 1751. Now, with the latest news on tonight's appeal so far, here's DC Jackie Hames.
I've been looking through the calls coming in so far on that appalling attack on the girl in Hastings, 16 years old. We've had a few calls from people suggesting potential employment details of this man, the fact that he held that torch in quite a distinctive way. But certainly as a detective, what I'd really like to see, if possible, if you could try and combine that video fit of that man and his very odd behaviour, the fact that he drives a red or maroon saloon, that Magilite torch, but perhaps why is a 45-year-old man going around with a Winnie the Pooh telephone if he's still got it? Combine all those things together. If you can think of anyone who may have 2 or 3 of those, please give us a call. It could really help progress this inquiry. Jeremy, what have you been up to?
We've had a really fantastic response on that dreadful attack in the Elbow Rooms nightclub last year. We've had a caller from Monmouthshire who's offering another £10,000 reward. We've had 2 different names put forward for the attacker. A witness has come forward. A former prisoner thinks that he might have been a cellmate of the person who committed this attack. And we also got a suggested name for the man who put abuse towards the ambulance crew as they were treating the victim. So it looks very promising. Now then, the studio number is on the screen, and if you're watching on digital satellite TV, you can email us directly through a remote control. Just press the red button on your handset and choose Crimewatch.
9:31 is still to come. The unknown baby murdered at birth, and the Northern Ireland mum, we hope, will call tonight. The power of Crimewatch leads 3 criminals to give themselves up.
And the guitar has brought the music back to a well-known performer.
But first, all ports and airports are tonight on alert in our next case. Police want you to join them in the lookout for a Polish man, probably an illegal immigrant, who stayed here for a while about a year ago. 12 months on, he may think the heat is off and be back in Britain. Last time he took a room in Ealing, part of London where many Polish people settle. His landlady was also Polish, Domicilia Skiera.
Mrs. Skiera was an elderly lady, and she was modest. She was very softly spoken, unassuming. She didn't push herself forward. She was just a quiet lady. She was alone. I mean, she didn't have a family. And she used to rent out rooms in her house. Somebody would ask whether she could put them up, and she would take them. She was very frugal in how she spent her money and what she did. Mrs. Skiera came to my counsellor's surgery. This is a surgery that I do for the local authority. And she came to me, I think the first time was June 2000. She had a domestic problem and she asked me whether I could help her.
Dzień dobry. Dzień dobry, pani. Come and sit down. And unless I told them...
The last time I saw Mrs. Skiera was just 2 days before I heard that she had been murdered. She was quite relaxed and I thought she looked well. She wasn't particularly stressed or worried. So everybody was floundering and was very lost to think that somebody could have been murdered in this way.
We called her Mrs. Skiera, but amongst ourselves we called her Granny. We never had any hassles with her. Every day she took the rubbish out of our room and the kitchen. She wouldn't let us do it.
2 nights before the murder, a third lodger came to Ranelagh Road. He introduced himself as Artur Kowalski.
When he moved in on the Monday, he seemed like a nice, cheerful fellow. He had some vodka with him because he had just been to a party. So we drank it together to get to know each other.
Po prostu, żeby się lepiej poznać. Wypiliśmy razem. Wydało się normalnym.
He seemed like a regular guy. You meet lots of people like that.
Wielu ludzi, przeważnie.
And usually with first impressions you take people as you find them.
Nie patrzy się tam za bardzo wrogo na nikogo, nie?
Tak, poprzedniego wieczora prosił, bo mówi, że ma trudności. Arek asked us on the previous night to waken him because he had problems with getting up. On the day Mrs. Skiera was killed, when I was going out to work, I met Arek as he was coming out of the bathroom. And that was the last time I saw him.
We honestly believe that Mrs. Skiera had a considerable quantity of cash secreted within her premises. That was confirmed by a vast amount that was discovered when we did our full forensic search, and we believe that that was the motive for her murder. Mrs. Skiera had been subjected to a vicious sadistic attack, and she had been bound hand and foot, and there is evidence that we believe that she was actually tortured in order to make her reveal the whereabouts of her money.
We were surprised that the rubbish had not been taken out that day, because Mrs. Skiera took out the rubbish every day, and the house was cold.
Cold and kind of dark. It was strange. There was usually some light and movement downstairs. At least you could hear the TV playing. But on that day, it was silent.
Była cisza.
Babciu? Co się działo? To wszystko jest porozpierdolone zupełnie. O Jezus.
Our main lines of inquiry have been to try and trace the third lodger. He is definitely of Polish origin, and so we have made a number of inquiries with the Polish police. In addition to that, we've been over to Poland, and we've actually appeared on the Polish version of Crimewatch and made appeals to the Polish nation for anybody that can give information relating to this individual's identity.
Domiceli Skiery. Od tej sprawy właśnie zaczynamy nasz dzisiejszy program.
Gdy ktoś chciał na przykład nawet obrabować, to mógł tylko to zrobić, a nie musiał.
Even if someone wanted to rob her, they could have done it without killing her.
Wypadałoby, żeby...
So it would be the right thing to find the man who did it. If anybody knows him, or knows where he is, please help us. And we would like to thank you for your help.
No i z góry dziękujemy.
Well, here's Detective Inspector Guy Ashley now in the studio, and obviously the main guy you have to catch is the chap who called himself Artur Kowalski.
That's correct. He gave the name of Artur Kowalski to Mrs. Skiera, but he also used the name Arek.
You don't think either is his real name?
No, we don't. We think it was planned. He went in there with the intent and purpose to actually rob Mrs. Skiera.
Dark hair, moustache, of course he could have trimmed either or both, but that skin is quite distinctive. It looks as though he's got spots. Tell us about that.
His skin, his complexion is dark, but he has very distinctive and very clear pock marking, as if he suffered extreme acne, so he can't disguise that.
Now, the Metropolitan Police has been so disturbed by this murder, and, you know, there are murders. You don't put up rewards on all of them. You've put up a big reward in this one. Tell us why. Why are you so disturbed about this one?
The level of violence that was used against Mrs. Skiera and the manner in which she was killed was clearly the work of somebody who's psychopathic.
Psychopathic?
I would say so. He's, like I say, the level of violence used was unparalleled.
So you're really frightened he's going to kill somebody else?
I'm sure he will, and undoubtedly he's offended in the past. There's no way he would go to that level of violence without having some previous violent history, and we are concerned, and that's why the reward has been offered, so that we catch this guy.
That's very strong. You're fairly sure he'll do this again. Now, presumably, when Poles come across here, normally they come across for employment. After May, of course, they come freely because they'll be part of the European Union. Up to now, many of them have come here legally, and employers might be a little worried about bringing in, even if they think they know who this guy is, because, well, have they paid the right tax, or was he a legal immigrant and all the rest?
I can assure them, my lines of inquiry, this is a murder inquiry. I'm not going to be looking into that. I need to know the name of this guy, and I need to catch him.
There's one employer in particular you're concerned about who's English. Now tell us who and why.
That's correct. In the summer of 2002, witnesses have said a man who resembles this EFIT, looks very similar to the Arek who was there in 2003, was employed with another English guy to decorate Mrs. Skiera's premises. We're asking for the English decorator to come forward and contact us. He may very well be able to give us the name of the offender.
Ranelagh Road in Ealing, Mrs. Skiera. He'd remember that. It's only a couple of years ago. Have you got a description of him? How much do you know about him?
Yes, we can say that he's about 5'6" to 5'8" tall, middle-aged, slim build, dark greying hair, which is described as salt and pepper hair. And he wore spectacles. He also drove a car, which is a Ford Saloon. That's the best description we have.
Now, we've talked about the guy with the moustache. There he is, who came just before the murder and then disappeared. Obviously a key suspect. There's somebody else you need to trace as well. And this time you've got a photograph, you've got a name, you've got a lot of details. Tell us about him and why.
Okay, as a result of the inquiries made in Poland, we've established that Mrs. Skiera was in fact attacked in very similar circumstances in the summer of 2001. The photograph we have here on the screen is of a Thomas Dubaz, who originates from the Kwidzyn area of Poland near Gdansk. We have information which leads us to believe that he is in this country, very possibly in the Camden area of northwest London. We are desperate to trace him as he has information of extreme significance to this inquiry.
How new is this photograph, do you know?
That photograph is from the Polish identification card database.
So it could be some years old?
It is some years old, but there is a good description again. Thomas Dubaz is about 5'8" or 175 centimetres tall. He's around about 30 years old with straw blonde hair.
Strawberry blonde hair?
Straw blonde.
Straw blonde hair.
Straw blonde hair. What is particularly distinctive about this man...
Looks like he's got dark hair in the photograph, but it is straw blonde.
Straw blonde, yes. What is very distinctive about this man is he has some front teeth missing, and we have information where he has received injuries as a result of an industrial accident, and he has a particular walk now. He broke his back or his pelvis, and he walks, obviously, having had that injury in a strange way.
Well, you've heard what Mr. Ashley said. You really can't overemphasise the importance of ringing in. He believes this man, not necessarily this one, but whoever committed the murder, is going to do something similar again unless people really help tonight. If you can help, please. There's this £10,000 reward being put up by the Metropolitan Police. Our number in the studio is the standard 10500 600 600. The incident room is on 020 7321 9251. If your Polish is rather better than your English, then please call 020 8743 9552. Here now is DC Jackie Hames.
We've four faces now. Hopefully you've got the names and even better the addresses too. Alexander Dalgleish is considered a danger to young women and girls, so if you've seen him, please call. He's wanted for questioning about a rape in Southport and often stays in caravan parks and holiday camps. He's 31, 5'5", and speaks with a Lancashire accent. Alexander Dalgleish works as a DJ and entertainer across the northwest of England and North Wales. Where is he tonight? Maninder Katkal is wanted in connection with a stabbing in Heston in Middlesex last July. Although 18, he does look younger. He's very thin, has pointed ears and is a mechanic by trade. He may be living in Birmingham or Leicester. If he appeals to you to hide him, remember this is a serious and violent offence. Please give us a call. Now, Christopher Moore. Cheshire Police want to talk to him about a murder, a particularly gruesome one. He's athletic, nearly 6 foot tall, has a scar on the bridge of his nose and tends to look like a skinhead. But he has an extravagant lifestyle and is known to spend time in Marbella, Spain. There's a £10,000 reward on offer if you provide information leading to a conviction. And this is Alkeel Banton, who's wanted for drug smuggling. He has a pierced left ear, grows a beard or moustache sometimes, and has a distinctive 1-inch scar on the back of both hands. He was last seen in Streatham last September, and customs investigators believe he may still be in the South London area. And now, not a face, but a wanted car. It's a silver 216 Rover Saloon, registration F104ROR. It's wanted by detectives investigating the murder last August of John Hancock. They believe John's killers drove the car from South London to Southsea in Hampshire before tracking John down and beating him to death. Now, that Rover might provide important forensic evidence. Have you seen it parked somewhere or even abandoned? If you have information on that or any of these cases, please call 0500 600 600.
Well, it's coming up to 9:45. Keep those calls coming in. And there Jackie was talking about photos of a car and people that we're after. But suppose you haven't got a picture, just a memory. Well, that's where e-fits come into their own. But how good are they? And what's it like if you're asked to make one? Earlier, we set Matt Allwright the task of recreating this image of a well-known villain. Well, we know who it is, but e-fit expert here, Adrian Mountain, doesn't know. So let's see how you're getting on. How have you got on, Matt? Well, tell me how you started with all this.
We're getting there, but it is amazing as you start to piece it together. The range of different facial features you've got in here really makes it incredibly easy to get a very accurate fit. Adrian said we'd just get a likeness, but it's getting closer to almost a photograph. It's that good.
So what did you start with? What was the thing?
Well, Adrian just basically asked me for a description of certain parts, the most distinctive features, and then you've got a list. You can scroll through a list of different things and apply them to the face, and it's amazing when it's right. It's right that, you know, the hair and the eyes on this one just really pop out at you when they're the right ones.
So how do it work? You have like a database of what, hundreds, dozens or hundreds of identifying features?
Literally hundreds of each feature. And what, as Matt said, is you run through the features with the description.
So as you've been doing
now, you've got such as eyes and hair. You will run through various ones, and Matt will pick out the ones that he considers the most likely.
So it shows, I mean, the eyes are so important, aren't they, when it comes to identifying
quite
somebody?
often people identify the eyes, especially if they're striking. And on here, your various sets of eyes that you can look through, and as Matt selected various ones that are quite like the possible suspect.
You know, I have to say, I would have said with this particular person, because we know who it is, the hairline's pretty distinctive, isn't it?
That was the first thing that I picked out, actually, when I was starting. You start almost with just like a Mr. Potato Head, and you gradually add things to it. And the first thing I said to Adrian was, like, let's start with the hair, because that is a really defining feature, and then go on to the eyes.
So what different types of hair could you have had? I mean, just show us how you'd go through that there.
You could literally have any hairstyle that's in the database. You can go from very short hair to very long hair.
It's amazing what difference that makes, isn't it, if you're trying to put that together.
And as you run through, it obviously alters the features quite dramatically.
And have you found it quite difficult, Matt, to try and
It
arrive
really
at a really good likeness?
The difficult things are the things that you don't really look at, things like eyebrows and ears. You never spend any time, normally looking at those things. So when you're actually asked to describe them, it is quite difficult. But the beauty of this system is that you narrow it down. You start with, say, 100, and then you move to 20, and then 5, until you ended up with 2, and you choose between them, and there's not that much difference.
So have you got quite close to who you think it is now?
I think so. I think the eyes are right, I think that's pretty much as close as we're going to get.
I have to say, I think that's a pretty good line. Have you guessed who it is?
Yes.
It is?
Phil Mitchell.
It certainly looks like it. I'm amazed at how accurate that is. I mean, if someone was going to, think about doing this kind of thing, should they go for an exact likeness or type? How should it work?
No, what you're looking for really is a likeness. It doesn't have to be a photograph. And I think a lot of the time witnesses who are doing the e-fit think they have to produce a photograph, and that isn't the case.
what you're looking for, as I say, is a likeness that you can put to the public, and they can look at that person and say, I think that may be.
Well, I certainly think you have with him, I must say. Well, hopefully Phil Mitchell's days on the run are numbered after this.
And indeed, of course, now he's been on Crimewatch, he might decide to hand himself in. In fact, surprisingly often, an appearance on Crimewatch is enough in itself to make a wanted person know the game is up. Andrew Garrity, a prolific burglar.
If you're a Sheffield United fan, have a look on the terraces for Andrew Garrity.
As a result of the phone calls made to Crimewatch UK, myself and my colleagues made numerous inquiries throughout the Sheffield area that eventually brought us to the local markets. I'm sure that the pressure and the help from Crimewatch finally resulted in him giving himself up to the police. This is a unpleasant man that caused no end of grief and misery to people by breaking into their houses, and he is now in Doncaster prison, where he will serve the rest of his sentence until March 2005.
Next, a shoplifter, almost literally.
When we put the cameras in, we thought that it would deter people from small shoplifting. I never really imagined that it would be a robbery of that scale, and it would catch the chap in action so clearly. When the chap came in, he asked me for money, and I refused. And he went out and came back in, and he obviously was sizing the place up before he decided to actually do the robbery. He grabbed hold of the counter, which he wrecked, and jumped up on the counter and came to get the till, and ran out the door with the till.
The programme finished at 10 o'clock and at 11:30 the suspect in the case walked into Maidstone police station, having seen himself while sitting at home watching Crimewatch, and actually gave himself up.
Peter Madero was sentenced to 2 years, but because he'd given himself up and had no previous, his sentence was suspended. James Tunstall was suspected of rape and indecent assault.
I visited the Crimewatch programme in September 2002.
By my colleagues in Humberside Police.
On the night time itself, I was a bit disappointed. I think we only had maybe 5 or 6 telephone calls, and I was extremely surprised the next morning when I got a further phone call to say that Mr Tunstall had been in contact with us through his solicitor.
I've come to hand myself in.
What for, please?
I can't really say to you.
What's your name?
Tunstall.
We then took him the following day to Grimsby Crown Court.
He was found guilty of indecent assault and deception and sentenced to 6 years, reduced on appeal to 5 years and 9 months.
The judge specifically commented at the end of the summing up that day that it was another success for Crimewatch, and that it was a result purely as a consequence of the programme.
Our last appeal is to a mother. We'd like her to come forward tonight after what must have been 2 years of mental turmoil. Our story begins in March 2002, 5 miles south of Belfast in County Down.
I love it. Fun! Do you want to build a camp? Yeah. What's a camp? It's like a hut, like a tree house, but it's on the ground. I know. Us three will gather sticks, and you go up and look for sticks up there. Yeah? Right. Look, I found a good stick. There's something in it. Quickly, there's something in the woods.
A garland of daisies joined fresh flowers, marking the place where the baby girl's body was found. A boy and girl, aged 10 and 11, made the grim discovery yesterday afternoon.
When we examined this little baby girl, we found that she had lived a very short and traumatic life. She had breathed independently of her mum. She had suffered a number of stab wounds to her body and to her head, and she'd suffered injuries to her head after being struck against a hard surface. Her life had been measured in minutes. She had never been fed. She had never been clothed. She had died perhaps up to 3 weeks prior to the discovery of her body. She had been buried initially in household compost before being moved to the jogging path where her body was found. She was all alone. We don't even know if she had a name. We called her Carrie.
Police investigating the baby girl's death say they'll screen women of childbearing age in the Carriduff area if they can't find the mother soon.
We conducted a mass screen DNA test of over 1,300 women, which was the largest ever in Northern Ireland.
Since Carrie had been dead 3 weeks, she'd started to decompose, so a police artist was asked to put a face to her.
We believe this is the first occasion this has been done in the United Kingdom. We wanted to say to Carrie's mum, this is your daughter. Whoever left Carrie's body at the Duck Walk would have known the area. It's an area only really used by locals. We believe that Carrie's mum wanted her little body to be found so that we could take care of her because she could not. Well, I think that the community in Carriduff and further afield have really taken Carrie to their hearts. There were so many people attended her funeral.
Left in a bin bag, but now buried with dignity. Baby Carrie's coffin was taken to her grave by a police detective.
We wanted to afford her the dignity that she was not able to get in her short life and in her death. I really believe that this is what her mum truly wanted her to have.
Earlier this month, in another bid to solve the case, a new technique was used to try to find out who baby Carrie really was.
Well, using photo imaging software, we start with the post-mortem photograph, and we literally build up an image of baby Carrie. I obviously can't show the post-mortem photograph, but we bring in the layers so we can see exactly that we have positioned the nose, the mouth and the eyes. And I believe that that leaves us with as true a likeness of baby Carrie as we can possibly get.
I believe Carrie's mum must be in real and continuing distress. This is not something she's ever going to forget. Carrie would have been almost 2 years old now, and every time that there's a birthday and every time that there's a Mother's Day, Carrie's mum is going to remember her little daughter.
Well, this is what baby Carrie would have looked like if she'd lived to be a month old. I don't think any mother can imagine what this baby's mum must have been going through these past 2 years. I'm appealing tonight directly to baby Carrie's mother. Call us. There are people here who can help you. Perhaps someone else was involved in this terrible tragedy, and you've carried that secret until now. I'd also like to appeal to others in South Belfast and County Down. Was there a girl who seemed pregnant, or at least was putting on weight, and suddenly lost it 2 years ago? But above all, Carrie's mum, if you're watching, call us. If you don't want to talk to a police officer, perhaps you'd talk to me. Just ask for me and I'll take your call. Telephone the studio free on 0500 600 600, or alternatively the incident room on 02890 259 793.
At 4 minutes to 10, I can tell you it was a fairly slow start to the evening with the calls coming in, but not now. They are pouring in, and remarkable numbers of people calling in on the murder of Mrs. Skiera. She was the Polish woman murdered in Ealing, and we've had huge numbers of sightings of Thomas Dubaz in the area in which he's thought to be an huge number of Poles have rung in themselves, many of them using the facilities for calling Polish people here, Polish interpreters and so forth. You heard earlier on the elbow room attack in Birmingham, somebody had rung, in fact this is the caller, has offered a £10,000 reward on that. We've still got to check that out, but I mean that looks legitimate on that. On the Hastings rape, we have got a lot of names coming in, and incidentally one name has come in twice, and there's really quite good evidence coming in on that. On the Stratford-upon-Avon fraud, we think we now know who the woman is. On the Telford TV burglary, we've got 2 names on that. The mountain bikes, stacks of calls coming in. All the incident room numbers are on CFAX on page 61. You can see a reminder of some of tonight's cases and crime prevention advice on the website. That's at www.bbc.co.uk/crime.
You may remember that in December's Crimewatch, musician Paul Carrie was appealing for the return of his band's instruments, including his much-loved Hofner guitar, which had been stolen after a gig. Well, with some good news, just listen to this.
Looking back over my shoulder, I can see that look in your eye, but I never dreamed it could be over. I never wanted to say goodbye. Looking back over my shoulder,
well, that sounded, after all the terrible things we heard about tonight, it's great to have some music in the studio. And here it is,
Yeah.
the Hofner guitar.
Yeah.
So how did you get it back?
Well, apparently, I think the police went to investigate a totally different crime. They went to a house to interview someone, and they found this guitar, and that led them on to finding all the rest of the gear.
And they weren't in such good condition, were they?
No, it's been stored somewhere very, very damp and wet, so a lot of the guitars are in pretty bad shape. This one's not too bad.
Did you ever think you'd get this one back?
I certainly didn't, no. I didn't think I'd see it again, but I'm delighted to
It's
see it.
very good to hear you with it, and thanks for coming in.
Pleasure.
Our phone lines are open until midnight tonight and from 7:30 a.m. until midnight tomorrow. We'll be back at 10:35 with the Crimewatch update.
And next month, Crimewatch will return on a Wednesday. That's Wednesday, the 31st of March, when we'll be featuring a woman forced at gunpoint to steal from herself. But please, whatever else happens, remember, most of the crimes we feature only make the headlines simply because they're rare, so don't have nightmares. Sleep well. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.